Hello, good afternoon. It's midday and this is Baina Midday News coming to you live from Benab House, Atomic Junction, Medina. Coming up this afternoon, close up to strike over unmet pledge to remove birth and death registrar. Ghana plans return to domestic bond market in second quarter of 2025. And on the international front, African leaders create fund to provide cheaper debt. I'm Khadija Tukubra Keilani. Do stay with us for details of the stories. Thank you for staying with us. Remember, the news is also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at Baina TV. Now to our first story. The Minerals Commission has updated its records, revealing that 318 mining-related licenses were to commence in the final week of former President Nana Akufo-Addo's administration, more than tripling the 102 initially reported. The latest revision indicate that a total of 328 mining-related licenses have been issued so far in 2025.
Out of the 328 mining-related licenses issued in so far this year, 318 were granted between January 1st and January 6th, just before President John Dramani Mahama was sworn into office. This means the current administration has issued only 10 licenses, an increase from the single license initially commenced in earlier report. With the revised figures, Ghana's total number of active mining-related licenses has now risen to 2,246, marking an increase of 119 licenses from the previous count of 2,127. The update has also led to a revision of the total number of licenses issued during former President Akufo-Addo's 8-year tenure between January 2017 to January 2025. Initially, data indicated that 2,027 mining-related licenses were issued under his administration, representing 95.7% of all active licenses at the time. However, the revised figures now put this number at 2,147, reflecting an increase of 110 licenses.
Away from that, the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Kobina Duffuor, has strongly condemned the Mahama administration over the rising number of assaults on journalists. Mr. Duffuor revealed that since the start of President Mahama's administration, 7 cases of journalist attacks have been recorded, describing the situation as unprecedented. Speaking at a press conference on Tuesday, February 18, Kobina Duffuor expressed deep concerns over the lack of accountability for perpetrators. He criticized the government's failure to take decisive actions against those responsible.
Ahimi Teriawa, leading a Joy News team to cover a police operation to clamp down on the activities of the illegal miners, was nearly killed by the mob. We also record how Erastus Asari Donko, another journalist of the Multimedia Group Limited, was brutally assaulted by small-scale miners last year. As we speak, 1 month after the attack on Ahimi Teria and 1 year after Erastus was brutally attacked, the police have not yet prosecuted the perpetrators to ensure justice for our injured colleagues. While grappling with the attack on Ahimi Teria as the first case of assault against journalists in 2025, the count became rapid when 6 journalists were assaulted within a space of 1 week in the month of February. 4 of the attacks occurred in Kumasi in the Ashanti region and 2 at Walewale in the northeast region. It is very sad to note that in the month of love, when people are demonstrating love, to their dear ones with red gifts. Our colleagues who were in the line of duty were made to see red blood as reward for serving Mother Ghana. It is also disheartening to note that just about 50 days into the second John Mahama administration, we have witnessed even 7 cases of assault against journalists. And I stress on that it is also disheartening to know that just about 50 days into the second John Mahama administration, we have witnessed 7 cases of assault against journalists. This is unprecedented. Colleagues, in the Kumasi incident, the 4 journalists were assaulted on February 11, 2025, while covering the election of the Ashanti region representative on the Council of State. The election took place at the Regional Coordinating Council, the office of the regional minister, Ashanti regional minister, who is also the chairman of the Regional Security Council, in short, RECSEC. Strangely, some thugs managed to invade the premises to disrupt the election process and viciously assault the 4 journalists. Colleagues, the GJ Ashanti region assisted the victim to go to hospital and report the matter to the police. Our intelligence suggests that the thugs and criminals who assaulted the journalists are supporters or sympathizers of the ruling National Democratic Congress, NDC.
The GJA president urged the government and law enforcement agencies to take swift actions to protect press freedom and ensure that journalists can carry out their duties without fear of violence or intimidation. Away from that, the Civil Local Government Staff Association Ghana has called on its members to prepare for a nationwide industrial action set for Thursday, February 20, 2025. The planned strike is in protest against the continuing tenure of Samuel Adom Botwe as at the birth and death registry, despite government assurance that he would be removed from office. According to CLOSAC, Mr. Botwe's participation in the office budget hearing at the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs on Monday, February 17, 2025, is evidence that he remains in his role, contrary to the government's earlier commitment. In a statement signed by Executive Secretary Isaac Bampo Addo, the association reaffirmed that the strike will proceed as scheduled unless their concerns are addressed. And in other stories, Queen Mother of Sabon Zongo, Accra, in collaboration with chiefs of Sabon Zongo, donated variety of items to Home of Takwa Orphanage and School in Dodowa. The donation, which took place on Tuesday, February 18, 2025, included items such as sugar, rice, gari, water, and other essentials aimed at supporting the orphans during the upcoming months of fasting. They also donated an undisclosed amount to the children.
In an interview with Baina TV, the Queen Mother of Sabon Zongo, Accra, Aisha Manaf Ibrahim, offered prayers for the children and urged the Queen Mothers across Zongo communities to extend their supports to orphans and other vulnerable children as the fasting season approaches.
Muka zo wanga wuri yasa ubangijin Allah yanda ya kawo mu wanga karo ya ba mu iko mu dinga zuwa haka nan abinda yaran da ke nan ubangijin Allah ya ba su ilimi ya sa mu tsinci manyan mutane cikin su albarka annabi da alkur'ani. Nasiya na ne ga magajiyoyi yanda muka zo yaran ga suna da ban tausayi, yanda muka zo mu duka mun zo da farin ciki amma da muka dube su ba mu dai iske su cikin wani mawuyacin hali ba, amma mu duka muna kuka ne. Shi yasa ubangijin Allah ba sauran magajiyoyin iko su kuma yanda muka yin ga su zo su yi mafi da wanda mu ma muka yi. Allah ya ba kowa iko, ya so kowa ya ta zuwa ana taimaka musu don abin taimakawa ne. Shi yasa Allah ya ba kowa iko yanda muka zo su kuma Allah ya ba su iko ya cire su kuma su iya su zo. Yasa nasiyan da dan yake
kadan dai da aka samu aka kawo kenan. Allah ya sa an soma kenan, kan mu zo mu te mu kuma manta. Allah ya sa mu kowa albarka, don wannan ya samu ya bayar, da wannan bai samu ya bayar ba, da wannan ya zo da wannan bai zo ba. Allah ya sa mu kowa albarka. Kila zuwan.
After receiving the donations, Abdul Waris Al-Hassan, the managing director of Home of Taqwa Orphanage and School, expressed his gratitude and hopes that this visit would be first of many from the Queen Mothers.
To alhamdulillah muna godiya sosai da wanga taimakon da suka kawo muna. Kamar da muka sani da mu shiga watan azumi kenan, kuma azumi wata ne wanda yana bukatan taimako sosai, especially marayu suna cikin mabukatan da Allah ya ce a taimaka musu. To iyayen mu sun yi azanci, Allah ya sa musu wannan tunani suka zo muna kayan taimako sosai. Mun gode sosai. Kuma har wa yau da gidan marayu na Home of Taqwa muna daga murya muna gaya da jama'a musulmai mataimaka duniya baki daya da a fuskanto mu a zo a duba a taimaka ma yaran marayun ga su ma suna neman bukata, suna neman taimako insha Allah. To wani ke da iko duka ya fuskanto mu ya zo ya taimaka muna. Ina ganin a takaice da mai dan fadi kenan kan wanga ziyarar iyayen mu suka muna na masarautar Hausawan Accra. Mun gode sosai, Allah ya saka.
The Malama of the chieftaincy of Sabon Zongo, Malama Salah, also pray and hope Allah will grant them with health and wealth to continue to support such orphans across the Zongo communities.
Mu ce alhamdulillah da Allah ya taba zuciyarmu muka yi wanga aiki. To ubangijin Allah ya saka ma kowa da alheri, kuma na je muna cikin waɗanda suka rabanta, domin annabi ya ce duk wanda ya taba maraya ya taba ni. To mun gode ma Allah da muka taba marayu don mu kai inda annabi yake. Dama muna imani ko da yaushe muna tare da annabi, yana tare da mu. Kowa ya san yadda muke cikin annabi. Shi gashi kuma mun shiga cikin lamarin annabi, lamari na maraya. Annabi ya ce ko gashin maraya ka taba kanshi.
And now in business, foreign-owned banks maintained dominance in secured loan issuance during the fourth quarter of 2024, but their market share declined significantly, according to the Bank of Ghana's latest quarterly collateral registry brief. Sherifatu Ayuba has more.
The Bank of Ghana latest quarterly collateral registry brief shows a drop in foreign banks' share from 74.6% in fourth quarter of 2023 to 51% in the same period of 2024, while domestic banks increased their portion from 25.4% to 48.5%. This shift underscores the growing role of local banks in secured lending, even as foreign banks remain the primary players. The average lending rate for secured loans stood at 28.6%, slightly down from 28.8% in 2023, keeping banks at the most competitive lenders. Other official institutions recorded the following lending rates. Finance and leasing companies recorded lending rates of 33.1%, down from 38.5% 33.8%. Rural and community banks recorded 33.5%, down from 34.4%. Savings and loans firms recorded a rate of 43%, down from 44.1%. Microfinance institutions stood at 46.5%, down from 51.1%. Lending rates for microcredit companies stood at 49.5%, up from 47.7%, and 59.4% for finance houses, down from 60.3%. While foreign banks continue to lead the secured loan market, the increasing participation of domestic banks signals a gradual shift in Ghana's financial sector.
Still on business, after implementing a domestic debt exchange program that concluded in February 2023 with over 80% participation, the government is preparing to re-enter the local bond market cautiously, according to the third review of Ghana's IMF program in December 2024. The government plans to resume bond issuance in the second quarter of 2025. However, with a new administration now in place, the timeline remains uncertain.
The initiative, according to the statement, represents a crucial step in fulfilling President Mahama's campaign promise to involve citizens in discussions that shape their economic future. The dialogue is expected to promote consensus and collaboration among participants regarding priority policies and structural reforms. Outcomes of the forum are expected to begin the journey towards economic revitalization, ultimately enhancing business opportunities and improving living conditions across the country. The forum will bring together key stakeholders from the private sector, academia, public policy. The government strategy includes issuing a 2-year bond alongside releasing a revised medium-term debt management strategy and an annual borrowing plan. These measures aim to reassure investors of a prudent and transparent debt approach, a critical step in rebuilding market confidence following last year's restructuring. Investor appetite for longer-term instruments remains uncertain. Since the domestic debt exchange, many investors have shifted to the treasury bill market, attracted by higher yields. However, the government's recent stance on borrowing costs has created tension. At the most recent auction on February 14, 2025, the government rejected 8.2 billion Ghana cedis in bids, signaling a reluctance to accept elevated rates. This move, while aiming to control borrowing costs, has left excess liquidity in the market, potentially creating room for a successful bond issuance if terms are attractive enough. Still, investors remain watchful. The success of the planned bond issuance will likely depend on whether the new administration can strike a balance between fiscal discipline and meeting its pending commitments.
The government of Ghana, under the leadership of President John Dramani Mahama, has announced the National Economic Dialogue set to take place on March 3 and 4, 2025 at the Accra International Conference Center. In a statement issued on Tuesday, February 18, 2025, and signed by presidential spokesperson Felix Kwasi Ofosu, the government emphasized that the forum will provide a platform for Ghanaians to address pressing economic challenges and develop actionable solutions to drive sustainable economic growth.
The initiative, according to the statement, represents a crucial step in fulfilling President Mahama's campaign promise to involve citizens in discussions that shape their economic future. The dialogue is expected to promote consensus and collaboration among participants regarding priority policies and structural reforms. Outcomes of the forum are expected to begin the journey towards economic revitalization, ultimately enhancing business business opportunities and improving living conditions across the country. The forum will bring together key stakeholders from the private sector, academia, public policy institutions, and civil society organizations. President Mahama is expected to lead the dialogue with a keynote address centered on resetting Ghana, building the economy we want together. Participants will engage in detailed discussions through thematic sessions focusing on critical areas such as achieving sustainable macroeconomic stability, promoting economic transformation, advancing infrastructure development, implementing infrastructural reforms, ensuring private sector-led growth, restoring good governance, and combating corruption. The forum aims to reset the economy, ensuring long-term resilience and transformative growth for the benefit of all Ghanaians.
And now on the international front, beset by debt and billions of dollars in unfounded priorities, African leaders have approved a fund to provide consequential lending to cash-strapped governments. The facility, known as the African Financial Stability Mechanism, will be managed by the African Development Bank, Reuters reported on Tuesday. It will have its own credit rating and will be able to borrow from international money markets, the bank said in a statement. The call to create the facility was made in 2022 as the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine drove sovereign default and debt crisis